Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Be bold, be brave, be extraordinary, be vulnerable, be real, be curious, be true, be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Catherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Catherine McIntosh.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. As always, I'm excited to join you live. And for those of you joining us, we do take live callers. And today, if you have a question about something that you're struggling with, today is a great episode to call in and ask your question. And I will do my best to download. So today, we're talking about the upside of awareness. And I'm going to give a little story to demonstrate how awareness can contribute to you in every area of your life. And so this is about a decade ago. My son was a tiny little infant, and I was teaching a class in Florida, actually, Destin, Florida. Not Destin. Where was I? I think Daytona Beach, not Daytona, somewhere that I really like. But it's been a while and I've traveled all over the world. So sometimes I forget exactly the names of places I've been, but I was in this place in Florida, and my son was out at the pool on break. He was still in diapers. He was a little boy, running from the pool to the hot tub, to the pool, to the hot tub. And I'm, was just wearing normal clothes, watching him sort of enjoy. He was walking at this point. So maybe 10 months, 12 months, something like that. Something like that. And excuse me, I've been yawning a lot before this episode. So usually when I yawn, it means we're clearing things. And I'm like, I wonder what's getting cleared, either within myself or on the planet. And so this is the upside of awareness, is knowing what's going on in your world. If you're tired, you might be shifting something. You might be aware of something on the planet, right? Sometimes you go, oh, I'm so tired. And we sort of internalize it or personalize it or make it too personal, when actually something much bigger on the planet might be going on. So I've been yawning like crazy today. And we're at the pool, and my son is running and with his diapers on, about to run into the hot tub railing. It was like just a normal silver railing into a hot tub. And instead of the normal thing that a parent might say to their child, which is, be careful, I instead shouted, because I was too far away to be able to catch him in the moment. I shouted, be aware, really loud. He heard me, and kind of like a scene out of the Matrix movie, he slid, turned his back, like almost did like a limbo, and avoided smashing his head straight into this silver banister. And my husband at the time was there, and we both witnessed this, and we both looked at each other and were like, whoa. And, I think we really underestimate that awareness is our true nature. We were born to be aware of the planet, aware of the energies around us, aware of the unspoken whispers of possibility. And when I shouted, be aware, to this 10-month-old, 11-month-old, 12-month-old, however young he was, he got it. And it entered into his world, and he knew to do something about it, which was avoid smashing his head straight onto a silver railing, which probably would have hurt, and might have caused his parents more heart attack and heartache. But as my son was being raised by me and his dad, one of my favorite things to tell my son, and I still tell him to this day, is be aware, not be careful, right? But be aware. And be aware is actually the greatest way to be careful in your life. It's also the greatest form of protection. And so along the way, we would always invite him to share what he was aware of. Now, I have a confession to make as a stubborn female adult. I have not always listened to my son's intuition, and it's gotten me in trouble. And so a lot of us, I think we tend to look at the downside of if we're aware. What if I could hear other thoughts? What if I'm always busy? What if I meaning if I can hear my intuition all the time. What if I hear the bad things? What if I live my life in fear? What if I get worried? What if I have to spend the majority of my time day to day trying to pay attention to my intuition or my awareness? And what I want to sort of talk about is this upside of awareness. So if you are dealing with anxiety or depression or just feeling like a lack of vitality in your life, a lack of purpose, a lack of drive, a lack of motivation, a lack of something that gives you energy and a reason to get out of bed every day, part of that reason might be that you are shutting off your awareness, meaning you're using a lot of your life force energy to shut down your intuition. But we're going to talk about the upside because there are so many upsides versus the downside. And, I always say to people, you can't be ready for a future that you don't yet know, right? So you try something new, you don't know what it's going to create until you try it, right? But what you can do is try it. And so a lot of us avoid a lot of things that could actually be really good for us because we've already decided and we've aligned with the downside of something. And so the upside of your awareness is it can give you more energy. It can get you out of fight or flight with your body. It can increase your energy and your vitality. It can give you new business ideas. It can lead you to a relationship you might not otherwise have had. And so awareness is basically getting yourself to begin to listen to the whispers of your own intuition. And a lot of times we ignore them because we're so focused on the loud sounds of fear, of doubt, of worry, of anxiety, of our past traumas and dramas in our life, because those are loud, right? Our past is usually quite loud. Our future is not as loud. And so the upside of honing in and tuning in to these subtle little whispers is that it can open the door to a future you might not otherwise have ever chosen. And there are miraculous moments every day in which your intuition can lead you. But here's the deal: your intuition is not logical. Your intuition is not practical. Your intuition, 99% of the time, does not make sense. And so we tend to ignore it. And the more we ignore it, the harder life can sometimes get. We can get in these challenging situations. I was having a conversation with someone recently and they said, I've been really depressed lately. And I asked them about for how long, and they said years. And then I said, well, what happened years ago? And they said, oh, that's when I started this job. And I went, 'Cause my immediate hit when this person shared that they hadn't been themselves lately and they feel like they lost their confidence and lost their, chutzpah and lost their motivation, I immediately said, "Oh, it's because of where you worked." Right? And lo and behold, I was right, right? These intuitive hits. And, a lot of times it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to use your awareness and your intuition and your sort of sixth sense when you're witnessing other people's choices in their lives. It's a lot harder sometimes to do it with your own life. But once you discover ways to do it, it can get really easy. So I'm going to dive into some practical ways that you can increase your awareness in your life. And I promise you, see, it's something yawning is something I do when I'm clearing energy, and I'm pretty sure I'm clearing some stuff with myself as well. I spent last week in the desert of Utah and was able to camp, no Wi-Fi, no signal, no connection. And, I went for 4 days, 3 nights with 16 kids as a chaperone with my son's school. And it was really awesome to listen to the children and their awareness and their ideas and their creativity and their curiosity and their willingness to fail or get it wrong and then get back up, right? And so, kind of like life as adults, we tend to forget to tap into our awareness. We tend to forget to use our childlike sense of wonder to bring out the best in ourselves, right? To be transparent and vulnerable with our insecurities. And so, yeah. And so as I reemerge back into society from being in the desert and then being in the mountains of Vail for a soccer tournament with my son, I'm getting back to life as of last night. And I'm like, wow, I feel a little different. One of the greatest ways to get in touch with your own intuition is to go out in nature, to go on a hike, to hug a tree, to go swim in a river, to go on a quiet moment. And the reason being is when you're out in nature, if you look at wild animals and animals, usually in general, they have no judgment, right? It's total space. It represents the cycles and evolution of life, which is seasons, right? We're always in a change of some sort, right? Nature, you plant a seed, and nature doesn't know how long, nor does it care how long it's going to take for that seed to turn into a tree or a flower or a bush, right? And it has no point of view once that seed is planted, what is going to bloom in the process. But yet, as humans, we tend to get away from the evolutionary point of awareness, which is to allow for the cycles of life. And so I always encourage people, if they are going through something challenging in their life, to practice getting out in nature as much as you can. A walk, a hike, sitting by a stream, meditating, taking a journal, right? I tend to like to go on hikes or walks out in nature because it brings me back to the reminder of the cycles of life, back to the reminder to listen, back to the reminder of the seasons, and back to the reminder to be patient with things that I am planting seeds with. And so when you're out in nature, there's also this ability to receive from everything. There is no judgment. It's quiet. It's also a place where space is. And it's also a place where growth is and abundance is, right? Nature will always show us the abundance of life and the reminder of the cycles. So I was just on a walk earlier and a storm came in. So I chose to, instead of getting wet for the rest of my day this afternoon, I just made it a short hike. And I said, thank you to nature. Enough done, right? So, excuse me. So, getting out in nature and also moving your body because that bilateral movement will dispel any stuck energy that you have left over in your body, right? Had a lot of change happen in the desert, camping underneath the stars and the full moon. And it was really cool because I chose not to put a cover over my tent. And so I literally slept with this full moon. It was so bright and so beautiful. And also, it was a little challenging because I could perceive everything that had happened where I was camping. And so, one of besides getting out in nature, another really beautiful way to hone into your intuition, sleep, right? Something everyone can do because when you go to sleep, you turn off your brain. You enter into your sort of subconscious and unconscious. You allow things to move out of your body. And one of my perspectives on dreams is that dreams are a way that we let go of old patterns or energies that are stuck in our psyche or in our consciousness or in our unconsciousness. So sleep is a great way, right? So you've got hiking or walking in nature, getting out in nature in any way you can, sitting your butt in the grass, jumping in a lake or stream, right? In the winter, I live in Aspen and I go skiing quite a bit, and I really take some time to go by myself. I like going by myself because it allows me to reconnect, right? The second, sleep. Sleep is amazing, right? Amazing for reconnecting with yourself. And here's the most important part of it is right when you wake up, don't rush to your phone. Don't rush to your social media or your text messages or your emails. Like take the first 15 to 30 minutes or longer if you can and try to avoid using your phone and having time to yourself. Make a cup of coffee, drink some water, maybe pull out your journal, get into a routine where you are staying quiet. And, that moment right when we wake up, there's some really magical space available to all of us in that time if we don't immediately start our day in a stressful state. And so, not only does connecting to your awareness allow for new ideas to come in, allow for you to get in alignment so that you can get in a position where you're receiving the future you want to ask for, but it can also calm your nervous system down. And if any of you have been listening to my show, you may have heard the importance of my own self discovery of really making sure that I am working on calming my nervous system down, getting my nervous system into a balanced state. Because when my nervous system is in a balanced state, I eat differently. I'm not in fight or flight. My body can process food and environmental energies much easier and more different, right? The blood flows more easily. You have access to all of your energy channels. Your blood flows better. Your spinal fluid flows better. There's huge benefits to getting the nervous system relaxed. And for those of you that struggle with your weight, there can be a huge benefit to one, connecting to your awareness, connecting to your intuition, but also calming that nervous system down. And when you do, you're able to sometimes drop excess weight that your body's been carrying. Right. So those are my first two. And then the third, which I used to avoid and used to despise, is a meditation practice. And, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to have to like sit and close my eyes and suffer through meditation. I've found a way to meditate for me personally that really works. I have an infrared sauna blanket. I tuck myself into that blanket. And if you'd like a code, I just got a code from the company because I've referred a lot of people to this blanket, and you can get 15% off. Make sure to put the details in the description after the show. But the this I lay down in an infrared sauna blanket and I put on an audio, right? You can find tons of different meditation sort of teachers or meditation philosophies in which you resonate with. I personally have a very active brain. And so I like to listen to sort of a guided meditation set to music with a voice that I find soothing, with someone that I really enjoy. I personally listen a lot to Dr. Joe Dispenza. Was fortunate enough to do a week-long retreat with him in Cancun, Mexico back in June of 2022 that was pretty life-changing. And I've also done a lot of walking meditations. This is before I knew Dr. Joe Dispenza, but I originally started meditating by going on hikes in nature and listening to sort of a guided meditation, and all these downloads would come through. And so for those of you that maybe tend to prefer activity, sitting still is really hard for you, find a walking meditation or find a like meditation that you really resonate with, and then go on a hike or go on a walk. I've done a lot of meditations over the years, and I believe we have some meditations on my website. If you like my voice, you can certainly connect to those. But listening to something or someone that guides you through, and then you can go on a walk, you can lay down, right? The point is you shouldn't have to suffer. And yet some of the best meditations I've had are there's moments where it's harder for me to get into what I'll call an aligned state, right? Or a magical state or a flow state. And when I'm in those flow states, I'm connected to the future, right? I'm not trying to heal the past. And I found that for me, connecting to the energy of my future, so how it feels, the emotions, the sensations, the sounds, the sights, what it looks like, what it tastes like, what it smells like, and then how it's going to feel. So, does it feel energizing? Does it feel empowering? Does it feel engaging? Right? I have like certain things that I would like to manifest in the future. And whenever I think about them, I'm not thinking about what it's going to take to get me there. I'm getting myself into a meditated state or meditative state. And then I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, if that happens and feeling that happening, it feels free, it feels alive, it feels empowering, it feels connected, it feels like I'm engaging with the world, it feels like I'm exactly doing what I meant to be doing, right? It feels abundant, it feels purposeful, like all of those things that I sort of, when I'm getting myself in that state, connect to. But meditation is a great way, and I'm going to say this, I've actually never said this before, is a great way to heal your past. And what do I mean by that? Is the purpose of meditation isn't always to have a quiet mind. Now, yes, that is the goal. But sometimes the purpose of meditation is to witness how insane some of your thoughts are. And when you can quiet the mind enough to sort of watch everything that goes on in your brain in a 45-second period or a 90-second period, and you're like, wow, that's insane. And you don't grab on to any one thought, or you don't try to heal any one feeling or sensation, but you can just watch it pass through your universe. That can be a really huge healer of all of your past traumas, because when your mind is quiet and your body goes, oh, she's paying attention, we're going to bring up all the stuff, right? And usually that stuff that's being brought to the surface is being brought to the surface to leave your psyche or your subconscious or your unconscious, right? And so it can be a really powerful way to heal everything that is in your way. And, once you do that, so the upside of awareness is you can heal past wounds, not by trying to take them to your therapist or tackle them by talking about them. As a ex-psychologist, right, I discovered that talking about your problems only creates more problems. It creates more depression, it creates more anxiety, and so instead of talking about them, I found that the quickest way to heal the last 9 months I've been witnessing. Instead of taking my problems to someone or even to myself in my hikes out in nature, I instead will just watch those energies pass. And if I can be patient enough, right? You will never hear a seed planted that's supposed to be a tree that might be like stunted in its growth, or I should say, taking longer than the other trees to bloom. You wouldn't hear a tree go, I wonder what's wrong with me, right? And so when you let go of the idea, right, this upside of awareness, when you let go of the idea that there's anything wrong with you, right? Oh man, it can be a really powerful place to create your life, because the truth is there is nothing wrong with you and there never has been anything wrong with you. The only thing wrong with you is that you think there's something wrong with you, right? So awareness and finding ways to tap into your awareness can be quite healing and quite invigorating. And we're going to give you a few more of the upside of your awareness when we get back from the break. Stay tuned.
Om Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Catherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to KatherineMcIntosh.com. KatherineMcIntosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, so we are back. And yeah, this upside of awareness is kind of a fascinating thing for me because I'm always blown away by people who say to me, "Oh, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I feel like if I know, it might mess up my life. If I tap into my intuition or if I start being able to be sort of more intuitive or more psychic or more tapped in to my awarenesses, I feel like I might hear something I don't want to hear. But what we're doing today is we're talking about the upside because I personally believe that there are way more benefits to tapping into your intuition, to allowing your awareness to guide you through your life. Because, anyone who has ever started a business, I bet if you ask them how their initial business plan went, they would laugh, right? Most of Some of the most successful businesses in the world were started based off of an intuitive hit, right? A moment in time where someone had a brilliant idea and then they followed through on that brilliant idea. So I tell people when I'm teaching my intuitive energy courses and classes, one of my favorites is this intuitive energy course, which teaches people how to use their awareness, right, to change anything. And it's specifically geared towards people who want to possibly consider either making a living at being an intuitive or adding that service onto something that they already do. So, say they're an acupuncturist and they might not always know what's coming up for people when they're, doing acupuncture, and they might want to be able to know what to do with the energy, right? Knowing how to not take on other people's energy, not get stuck in their own universe and apply this to every area, their parenting, their relationships, their money flows, their finances, right? And so, as I teach, people say, "Oh, well, if I'm that aware, I'm going to be really busy." And I'm like, "No, you're not." The purpose of awareness isn't to keep you busy. The purpose of awareness is knowing what to pay attention to and when to take action on what you're paying attention to. And when you learn to pay attention and take action on the things that really get your attention, not the past, not the traumas, not the healing, but take action on those whispers of possibilities. And I don't know the statistic on it. It would be interesting to research, but I would bet that almost every person every day has at least one intuitive hit that would change their life, right? If they paid attention to it. But the problem is most people ignore these little whispers of awareness. So they chalk it off to, oh, it must be for somebody else. That can't be meant for me. And my philosophy is if it's an idea that keeps coming through you, then you have all of the resources, including access to the people who could help you, right? You have all the resources available to you to bring that idea to fruition. Now, you might need help, right? But you have the resources, or you might know someone who knows somebody. And so start paying attention. But I bet a lot of people oftentimes ignore those whispers of intelligence that come through on a daily basis. And I think if you're tapped in, you're probably having anywhere from 10 to, I don't know, 100, maybe even 1,000 ideas a day that come through. But really, I bet on a really good day, I have anywhere from 3 to 12 to 20 ideas that come through me. And, one of the things that I do is when my phone is around and I carry it around, I've, a picture of my son on the cover. Um, I write those ideas down. And I know that it's a seed planted. Now, might not be time for that seed to bloom, but it might be time to water that seed. It might be time to say hi to that seed. It might be time to just say, just sort of recognize that it's a seed that's been planted. And you can always ask, like, okay, like, ping me, right? Let me know when you're ready for me to take action. And I can't take credit for that concept, but it's a concept that is quite powerful and can come through in a really great way. And so, one of these upsides of awareness, calming the nervous system, right? Getting you in touch with your ideas, right? And I wrote some of these benefits down because my brain isn't always the best. But when you quiet your mind, you also have more space for you, right? So you can listen to what's true. So when you get in touch with your awareness, and I'm going to sort of talk about something that I think is really important, is sometimes you have programmed yourself to become aware of your past so you can heal your past. That is not what I'm talking about. What I want you to start to get in touch with, and what I'm suggesting, is getting so in tune with your awareness that you start creating a whole new future. And as you create a new future, you begin to heal your past. So let me give you an example. I have someone in my life recently who has taken on a new business venture. And as she's taken on this new business venture, she's coming up against some things in her world that she didn't realize were there. So she's having to work on them, not from, oh, I need to let go of my past, but, oh, I need to continue to evolve and grow so that this new business adventure can bloom. They say that the greatest way to become a successful entrepreneur is to work on yourself, right? And I'm not just talking about focusing on healing the past, using your awareness for the past, which, by the way, if you're focused on your past, chances are, without you knowing it, you're activating your survival mechanisms, which is your fight, flight, fawn, or freeze response system. And when those are activated, it's really hard to be aware of a future that you want to create. You'll just be recreating your past. I hope you guys can hear me. And so, if you are trying to use your awareness to heal your past by focusing on the past, here's the distinction. Right? This woman has been focused on building her future. And in building her future, she's coming up against some uncomfortable edges from her past. So that she's needing to get over them, right? To resolve them, to leap anyway. Right. And the way that it came about is, as she's starting this new business venture, there are some things that aren't going so smoothly. And I think that as we create a new future, as we build a new future, and we come against some edges, it's because there's room for us to evolve. And so, one of the huge upsides of paying attention to and listening to your awareness, if You're focusing it on building the future. One of the huge upsides is that you get to heal your past without diving or digging into your past. And so the way that you can navigate it is by taking bigger risks, bolder chances. Now, I'm not suggesting you don't heal. I'm suggesting that you change the monologue or the vision or the perspective from which you're going about healing. Right? And so I've talked about it in past episodes. I used to definitely have a not so great relationship with myself and my body image, severe body dysmorphia, which I still have to this day. I just don't engage it as much. And I spent 20 years of my life trying to fix the problem, right? So I was using my awareness to figure out what went wrong. Why did it happen? What do I need to do to heal? What can I do to change? All valid questions to ask, but I didn't make a whole lot of progress from trying to heal it from that perspective. When it really began to heal and change and transform was when I began focusing on my future, on building a dream life with myself and my son. That's when all that stuff from my past began to heal because now I'm not stuck in fight or flight or fawn or freeze. I'm actually in a creative flow of possibilities, a creative flow of making progress. And of course, I would always bump up against my uncomfortable edges. And that's when I knew it was time to, right, make a new step, like take a different perspective, change, realize, wow, I'm up against my edge with my business. I'm hitting a ceiling financially. Oh, because of my past. Now I'm not going to go, oh my God, what's wrong with my past? I can't change this. I went, okay, here's awesome information. How do I teach myself to get beyond my financial ceiling? And here's an interesting fact that I found, or at least an observation from facilitating thousands of people to grow their businesses, change their lives, is most people, the ceiling that they hit in their financial world. So the limitation that you struggle to go beyond, it might be really interesting or curious for you to ask or to observe if if you're hitting the same ceiling that your parents had. So I'll give an example. I used to have a ceiling in my financial world that I couldn't make more in a year than this amount, right? It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I realized when I named my number, I called my mom and I was like, "Hey, what's the most amount of money you've made in a year?" And I was thinking she was gonna tell me way more, and she told me almost the exact number that I written down. I was like, "Oh my god, my financial ceiling." Totally unconscious, totally not cognitive or logical or practical. I had hit the same ceiling, right? I would hit the same exact ceiling as my mom. And so then I went, wow, what is it? How do I get beyond it? And so life is a series of information for us to be able to practice going beyond our limitation. Right. But what happens for most of us, and this is kind of the upside of awareness, is what happens for most of us is when we hit our limitations, we revert back into a state in our nervous system that is not a future forward momentum place of existence, but rather a past, right? Looking at what's wrong, which activates the fight or flight. It activates the reptilian brain. It has us living more from a prehistoric survival state than it does a success state. really fascinating stuff, right? I find it fascinating. And so when you start paying attention and listening to this up state of awareness, right? Is you will begin to heal the unconscious programming of your limitations. And so I've talked about this a lot. We all have a pain threshold, but we also have a pleasure threshold. And so it's obvious when we hit our pain threshold, you put your hand next to a hot stove, you immediately back off from the hot stove, right? Same thing with the pleasure threshold. When you get really close or you're hanging out with what you would consider too much money or too much pleasure or too many good things happening, right? We tend to go, oh, when's the other shoe going to drop? And we start to reject or recede from too much pleasure because we think there's something wrong. And so, one of the ways as you're moving in your future, using your intuition, listening to your awareness, and you go, oh my gosh, I hit my pleasure threshold, or hit my limitation, or I hit my ceiling. Now you have information to be able to find a way to go beyond it. And one of the ways that you go beyond it is by listening to the whispers of your intuition. So I always say to people, like, if you're at the edge of your pleasure threshold and you hang out there and you go, oh, I don't know if I can make more money than my mom or my dad, or I don't know if I can, you know, be happier for longer than, a year at a time, whatever it is for you, you can go, okay, well, if I hang out here long enough, will I be safe? If I take the leap and risk going through my ceiling, through my limitation, will it create more for my life? And almost always the answer is yes. And so sometimes, right, you can only stand on the edge of a cliff for so long. Now, knowing you're going to be safe, right? And take the leap, right? I tell this story and then I believe we have a question, so we can take this live question, which is great. But I was teaching a workshop in Costa Rica years ago, and there was a woman who was petrified of heights. And this is in a chapter in the book that I wrote, "Don't Die, Be Happy." And as she's standing on the edge of the cliff, I was like, "Will you be safe? Right? Will you be fun?" She was like, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it." And she asked all the right questions, make sure she was safe. And lo and behold, this woman, and I tell a much longer version and a much better version in the book, but she takes this leap and dives off this cliff and it changed her life, right? It changed her life by making that leap. And so oftentimes we actually distract ourselves by thinking we need to heal the past, right? And we procrastinate taking that leap. Sometimes it's just a matter of you can only stand on the edge of a cliff for so long before you just have to jump, as long as you're going to be safe or your bungee cord, whatever it is, right? And so sometimes you have to hang out long enough, but only for so long, and then take that leap, and you'll be so surprised what you're capable of creating. Right. I was listening to David Goggins. He wrote a book, and I was listening to the audio version of his book, Can't Hurt Me Now. And he talks about that most humans don't use the majority of their potential. And he said when most humans think that they've hit their max, they have at least 40% more capacity and more strength in their reserves, but they give up too soon, right? And so when you start paying attention to your intuition, you can blow through the ceiling of your limitations, not by focusing on healing the past, but by focusing on creating the future. So we do have a question from a live caller. We've got a few minutes left in the show, and I didn't get to all of the upsides of your awareness, but keep listening and keep tuning in. And yeah, if we have time, we can take the live caller. Or maybe it's just a question. Okay, cool. Julia, are you there?
Yeah, hello. I didn't know I'm supposed to talk now. Apologize.
No problem. So I think we have a few minutes left in the show. What's your question?
The question is, Catherine, sometimes the intuition is whispering in our ear. We know what to do, yet we do not listen to that. And I'm wondering, why is that? We know what to do, but we don't listen, and then we pay such a high price. Why people don't listen to their intuition when they know it is the intuition whispering?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anyone else is choosing around you. It matters what you're choosing. So maybe the better question is, why am I not following through and listening to my intuition, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and you know that's a fair question, but answering why we don't might not move the needle forward because it's actually based on, let me go back into my past and try to figure out why I'm not listening to my intuition. Where a better question might be, what's it going to take for me to start trusting and following through on my intuitive whispers? Right. And so, my
Mm-hmm.
question to you, Julia, is when you hear your intuition and you know that it would create greater for your life if you took that leap, w- w- um, what do you think is holding you back? Now, I'm asking from a past based for information, but what do you think is holding you back? Why do you think you're not taking that leap?
I think it's fear.
Yeah. And so, how real are you making fear?
Um, as real as a person is next to me, I think.
Yeah, is but what if you started making possibilities? Like, so most people, and this is a fascinating thing, most people, when they're about to make a major change in life, like listening to your intuition, like following through on something, when you're about to make a major leap in your life, most people pay attention to what they think they're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And answering the question, why am I not listening, isn't going to get you to start taking action. So I wanted to take it in a direction where maybe we can open the door where you can start to see where it might be possible for you to take that leap. Okay? So most
Yeah.
people look at
Okay.
what they're afraid they're going to lose. So look at maybe an intuitive hit you've had in the last week that you know if you took action on that intuitive hit, it would change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what you think you're gonna lose if you take action, just energetically, you don't have to tell me out loud.
Yeah.
And then I want you to look at, what do you think you'll gain in your life if you take action?
Mm, yeah, difficult to say. I don't know.
How does it feel when you look at taking action?
Mm, it feels like I don't have energy for that in
Yeah.
my energetical body. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Julia, my intuitive hit, you can take it or leave it for what it's worth,
Yeah.
is you've gotten used to living in certain areas of your life as a status quo from your point of view. And you've gotten
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with that status quo. And so I know that most people only make change when it's painful enough to stay in the status quo.
Yes.
And so what would it need to take for you to be sick and tired of where you're currently at?
Um. Well, um, I think realizing the age I have, that would.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
I,
I wish
yeah.
we had more time because that right
Mhm.
there, and
Yeah.
this is where, right, intuition gets tricky because we can reason and justify our way out of the truth. The truth is, if you
Mhm.
took the leap and didn't use excuses, you'd probably change your life and be happier. But here's the other truth is it's also riskier because most people would rather stay in the status quo than risk rejection. And so when we take a leap of faith into doing something we've never done before, we also risk
Mhm.
failure. The reason why entrepreneurs are successful is because they get accustomed to the idea that failure is a part of success.
Yes.
Rejection is a part of success. Taking risks is a
Mhm.
part of success, right? And so next time you're faced with, why am I not listening to my intuition and should I take action? I want to invite you and anyone who this might resonate with who's listening is, okay, if I take action, am I going to regret it? Right? Just ask that question.
Mhm.
If I take action, am I going to regret taking action? And then the other question you can ask, if I don't take action, am I going to regret not taking action? And just see which one, because eventually you'll ask that question enough and you'll be like, screw it, I'm going to take action.
Mhm.
And that will
Right.
change your life, right? So we do
Yeah.
have to
I
wrap up the
yeah.
show, and I think that you asked an
Mhm.
awesome question. I'm so glad you called in. We do take live callers,
Mhm.
and you guys can ask me any question you want. And the whole point of this is to keep going, to not give up. It's so easy to deliver excuses, but when we look at, oh my gosh, am I going to regret not trying? And if you get an answer that's
Yeah.
yes, then go for it and just see what it creates. So I wish you
Thank
the
you,
best
Catherine.
of luck. You're so welcome, Julia. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Best of luck to you.
Catherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.